Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video. Thanks, let's begin. Can't decide on a Deicide album? Go with this one. Deicide and their self-titled album from 1990. This album turned 30 a few days ago. God, I gotta get on top of these things. I didn't review it in time. I am sorry. Let's get into the album. I wrote show vinyl, and I don't have the vinyl. Son of a... Originally called Carnage and Amen, this band is just insane. When they were called Amen, they had two demos out. Feasting the Beast and... what was the other one? Sacrificial. Both of these were rough cuts of songs they would eventually have on this album. I think they had a couple extra songs on Feasting the Beast and Sacrificial, but I could be wrong. But this thing flows flawlessly. Not really flawlessly, there are some issues, but we'll get into those. Glenn Benton on vocals, bass, and taking over lyrical duties is, in the metal world, a jerk. He's done horrible things, but no one really knows if he actually did them or not. He's kind of a jerk to everybody, and hates Mortician. I know that, the Christian metal band, because this is a satanic death metal album from a satanic death metal band. I heard they even got into a fight with those guys one time. Don't quote me on that, but I read it somewhere. Eric and Brian, another Brian Hoffman, both play lead guitars. And, wow. Much like Glenn Benton is on bass, they slay. They ride up and down their instruments with their fingers and they do not stop. There's an insane amount of fast songs on this album. And that is not only due to the vocals and the guitars and bass. It is also due to the drums by Steve Asham, who is insane at freaking everything. He just rules the drum set. This four-man band just is justice in the death metal scene. While everyone was trying to find their footing, they came out with a death thrash album that lies heavily not only on satanic themes, but death metal itself. The pacing in this thing is incredibly fast. It runs for about 33 minutes. This is one of the fastest death metal albums of the early 90s death metal boom. I can listen to this album and never get bored. There's even a bit of a technical sound, not quite up to like Suffocation's album release of Effigy of the Forgotten. Technical is the only word you can really use to describe it. It's not like overly technical, but it still has that level. Glenn Benton claims his vocals were not altered for this album. I think they were. I mean, come on, no one can really do those kind of vocals without some enhancement. Not even at the age of, what was he, 23 when he did this album? It's like, bull, man, bull. You can't really do that. I mean, if he did, he'd be like a freaking robot. On the more positive side of Glenn's career, he drew the album artwork for this, I believe, and it's of a goat demon pendulum or amulet or whatever. It's just, I used to think it was a door knocker with a satanic face on it, but I don't see no handle. He also drew the logo for this band, and I love it. It's simple, one of my favorite early death metal logos. I just absolutely adore it. It's very easy to read. Deicide. What are the lyrics? Oh, they're all about Satan. And when they're kind of hovering above Satan, it's about the Evil Dead movies. Songs like Oblivious to Evil, where they go, "Join us!" And their infamous song, Dead by Dawn, which heavily implies that it is paying homage to the Evil Dead movies, with things like the Necronomicon being mentioned, which isn't strictly Evil Dead, but still, the lyrics, like, it's so Evil Dead. On the other hand, Oblivious to Evil, besides the opening, "Join us," they have mostly a song here about sacrifice. However, if a person was doing a sacrifice, would he be really oblivious to the evil of it? Was he not prepared for the evil? I think I answered my own question. They wore armor while playing live in the 80s and 90s as Amen and Deicide. They played it during live shows as well as on PBS. I'm not kidding. It was a fundraiser in 1988 when they were under the name Amen. They played Sacrificial Suicide to a crowd who probably was not ready. But if they saw them walk on stage, they probably would exit the building if they didn't like the music, or they just sat there and were like, go pat in the corner, you loser. What are my dislikes on this album? The drumming, it is amazing, but it does kind of sound like clicking at parts, kind of like Suffocation's Effigy of the Forgotten. Like I mentioned earlier, this album has a technical side to it, but the drums, they do click a lot. That's not very distracting because the album as a whole is like a wall of noise, but another thing is that it is quite rough. Glenn quote-unquote said there was not enough money in the production to make this album, and that's totally understandable and believable. What are my favorite songs on this album? Again, throw a dart. There are no bad songs on this album. Highlights include Sacrificial Suicide, Dead by Dawn, Carnage in the Temple of the Damned, which is a song that's heavily influenced or taking inspiration from Charles Manson. Mephistopheles, Days of Darkness, Crucifixion. There's a whole bunch of great songs on this album. Can't forget others like Lunatics of God's Creation, Oblivious to Evil, Blaspherian, Deicide, and it's amazing. All the songs are brutal AF. Overall, I give Deicide and their self-titled album a 4 out of 5. Now that could be a little bit of nostalgia. I'm kind of floating up to the surface. I tried not to have anything nostalgic overweigh my rating, but this is still a solid album. I grew up listening to this when I played RuneScape when I was a young teenager. That's crazy. I was probably a little bit older. We stopped playing RuneScape, then we got back into it for a couple of years, then we stopped, and we haven't played it since. So, yeah. Listening to Deicide's this album over and over and over was just pure entertainment. Thank you all for watching, and I am Brian Gatto, the horror show host. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going on strong, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Plus, it'll give you access to kill counts and other kind of music videos that are not available on YouTube due to copyright and age restriction. Also hit that notification bell, and as always, subscribe.